Welcome back to Top Bins, the Champions Edition, the end of season edition, the team of the season edition. Bring you all the action from England and Italy and a little bit of Europe in this show. I'm your host, Matt, joined by my co-host, Dom. Dom, I don't even need to ask how you're doing because I just saw you take a swig of beer. You had a very, we're not middle-aged, but it felt like a middle-aged day because you had a concrete project to do on your day off. Celebrating the holiday weekend.
I was very Italian today.
I was gonna say you got a little tan today. Definitely got some sun, my friend. Laying the concrete out there. No body disposal this time. Purely aesthetic and property value forward. But
yeah, I mean, I got in touch with my roots. Became real Goomba day. Laying down some concrete, mixing concrete. It was cool. I learned a lot. I have a new trade that you you need to lay down a new driveway or something. I'm your guy now. Give me a call.
Okay. Dom side job Pontari here for you.
Before we get into anything, I kind of just want to say, I think I had that same exact shirt you have on, like back when I was in college as well, and I don't know what happened to it. I lost it. I bought it. I had it for like 3 days. It disappeared.
We could have, it's weird. Everyone has a story like that with like clothes, especially in college. It's like, I don't know what ever happened to that shirt or hoodie. Probably someone stole it out of like the dryer or something. Just kind of a wasteland, of of clothes. I remember girls used to get mad because other girls would steal girls like bras, which I mean like are expensive too. So like there was like a whole thing I remember where girls' bras kept getting stolen by other girls, and they were like, there was like this entire. It seems kind of insane to me. I guess since they were washed, whatever. But yeah, hide your bras. I guess lock them up.
I wanted to fight somebody one day because I went into the laundry room my freshman year and saw that somebody took my clothes out of the washer to use the washer because they were all filled up and just threw all my wet clothes on the floor.
Disrespect.
Just nothing, no basket, not on top of no, just on the floor. And I was like,
unless like someone threw up in something, there's no need for you to have done that. Like your laundry is not that important unless it literally like vomit soaked. Then what? Fair enough. You did what you had to do. But unless that's the scenario, I don't know how you do that with all good conscience as a person. Before we get into the main episode, got to give a shout out to our sponsor. This episode of Top Bins is brought to you by Binio Board. Binio is the next big tabletop game for your man cave / she shed. You think paper football meets foosball, and you've got Binio. Binio Board is a game and lifestyle brand based in Phoenix, Arizona. Their goal is to provide the highest quality boards and a true brand experience. Every part of their boards have been tested time and time again for the best possible playability, so that every Flicker's experience is a positive one. You can bring the world together with Binio and hear someone's story from the other side of the pitch. Right now, literally right now, this second, as you're listening or watching this, you can go to BinioBoard.com and use our code BINHOUSP, that's BINHOUSP, for 10% off your order, including the newly launched limited edition Ultraviolet board and Team USA and Team Mexico merch. That's code BINHOUSP for 10% off your order at BinioBoard.com. Dom, we had the Champions League final Saturday. It turned into one of the worst days of my life, as whenever Liverpool play Real Madrid, it tends to do. This one hurt. This one hurt in a different way than 2018. 2018, it felt like Liverpool were a team that, I wouldn't say lucky to be there, but certainly I think we're ahead of where they expected to be at that stage, and it felt like they were certainly the team with the most to prove in that final. This final, it felt like Liverpool coming in were the favorites, right? And I think even if you watch that game and you just cut out the goals and you just show the chances before like the saves, you probably would say Liverpool win this game. But Thibaut Courtois has a fantastic final performance. Hats off to him. He wins man of the match, totally deserving. Like we have said about Real Madrid in this Champions League run, you cannot count them out at any stage. And there was something very, divine about them this entire run. When you consider the teams that they went through and the manner in which they did it, it was pretty much the same as all the other knockouts where you could make the case that they probably weren't the better team, but they found a way to win. And that deserves credit in of itself. Definitely one of the hardest Champions League runs of all time. Credit to them. Just a great performance, but frustrating from the Liverpool perspective.
They knocked out 3 of the 4 English teams in the competition. which are absolutely incredible, right? After knocking off PSG, they beat Chelsea, City, and Liverpool on their way to the title. It's absolutely insane. Um, like you said, Thibaut Courtois, like if he wasn't in net, Liverpool probably win this game. I mean, he gave the rest of the team that kind of confidence to move forward. I think that some of the choices in the lineup that Ancelotti went with kind of played to Real Madrid's strengths, and help benefited the players that they kind of depend on when it comes to scoring chances. But hey, it was a crazy game, really well played, back and forth, tons of action. And I know it's kind of bittersweet for you. You see your team lose, but you did win some money. I will have to say you did, didn't
Money
you?
means nothing. Listen. I said this to Sarah, because I told her before the game that I had, I'd bet on Real Madrid, at this point, 3 or 4 months ago, back in February, and that I bet again in like an anti-jinx, right? And she was like, how much? And I think it was like a few $100s, and I was like, I would trade all of it. In fact, I would trade more to have Liverpool win the Champions League. I would spend whatever it took.
Oh, of course. I
Whatever
mean,
it took.
you would then have joint custody of second place for most titles ever since the UEFA Champions League has been a thing. So
Well, it's crazy Liverpool with the Champions League final too, because since it's rebranded to the Champions League, they've only been in the Champions League 14 times, but they've made it to 6 finals, which is stupid. That's a dumb ratio. There is something, but here's the thing, right? Here's what's frustrating about it for me. You never know when this is going to be your last final. If you would ask Manchester United fans in 2011 if that was their last Champions League final for now 11 years, they would not have believed that. You never know when that stage is coming. Even for Madrid, right? They hadn't been back in 2018. I know that's only a 4-year layoff, but still, they would have expected to have been back in the next 2 or 3 years, and it took them to that 4th. And even then, I think if you'd asked a lot of people, either Real Madrid fans or even neutral people, this time last year, if they'd be in a Champions League final, let alone winning it this year, I don't know that people really would have believed that. I think the narrative around Madrid this time last year was a lot different as compared to it is now. And obviously, in the lead up to the final, they have the whole Mbappe staying with PSG thing. But as soon as that happened, I got really nervous because, oh, fuck. Now they have something. Now they have what they need. And it's super frustrating, right? Because this Liverpool team is good enough to be winning the major trophies, and it's so frustrating. You watch them just go a point short in the league in the lead up, and then it feels like probably should have won this game. You had the chances, just couldn't finish as well as you could. And like I said, congrats to Madrid. We'll be talking about this, especially the core of this Madrid team, for a very long time, because what they've been able to do at the top level is spectacular. And, you look at the signings they're making too. They are definitely future planning right now, and this is going to be a problem for the future too with Real Madrid. You had mentioned what a hard run it was. I was actually really curious because I feel like this has to be one of the hardest runs to a Champions League final. I just think it's that, again, PSG in the knockouts, Manchester City, Chelsea, and then Liverpool in the final. There was actually a study by Dartmouth Sports Analytics. Credit to David Herrera and Michael Smith, graduated in 2018. Hope you're doing well, fellas. They actually had the same question I did, which was, what is the hardest Champions League run ever in the knockout stages? And they, essentially boiled down, your UEFA coefficient, your league points, and came up with a number. The hardest, now this was in 2017, so we don't have, data since then, but the hardest actual Champions League run to that point was Real Madrid in 2016-17 when they won it. They had Napoli in the first round, Bayern Munich, and then Atletico, and then Juventus in the final. That was a hard one. That was obviously a heyday of Napoli too. That's Sarri, Higuain Napoli. That's of course Bayern Munich, very, very good. Atletico Madrid, very good at that stage, and Juventus, still a top team. That Madrid team is something else in terms of just talent alone, just crazy. But the second highest, according to this study as well, was Real Madrid in 2014, right? Remember that very famous Atletico Madrid final? Just behind them was Bayern Munich in 2013. with the highest, or I guess hardest route. Real Madrid in 2016, and then Inter in 2010, actually, rounding out there. So Real Madrid, when they do it spectacularly, it seems. They have a habit that they actually, I think, maybe stumble a bit more with the weaker teams. One of the only teams that's really knocked them out in the last few years was that Ajax team, right, in 2018, 2019. But congrats to them. They deserve a lot of credit for the way they played. Carlo Ancelotti as well now, really cementing himself as one of, if he wasn't already. But I mean, I think some of the shine off him had faded a little bit, I would say, in the last 4 or 5 years. There's no question about it now. I tell you, being on the other end of that eyebrow raise, not as fun. Not as fun. It's not. I'm postponing eyebrow raising for like 6 to 7 months for me. I can't do it. It sucks. Feeling all right though. We're living post major disappointment. It is what it is. Liverpool did have
What did you think of the? I think you were just about to mention this, but what did you think about the parade?
So what's stupid too is like everyone always uses this as ammunition when it's like they had a parade plan for the next day. It's like literally every major sport always has to have a plan for that because you have to have like police and you have to have certain areas cordoned off, like all that.
There's a lot of moving parts.
They'd had this parade planned, and Klopp even mentioned this after the FA Cup final and the League Cup final. They weren't able to actually celebrate them because they had games in the next 3 days. So it was a chance for like them and the fans to actually celebrate those 2 trophies, and it bled over into the fact that really Liverpool have not been able to celebrate a lot of their success because so much of it has come during the COVID window where you really couldn't have big gatherings. I mean, it was a huge turnout too, which was fantastic, and ultimately, yeah, I mean, in hindsight, you look at it now, it's like it's a little funny because it's the day after the Champions League final, but I also think that speaks a lot to just the like how good the times are that it's still you could get that good of a showing, and yes, Saturday was super disappointing, but when you look back on this season and how good it was, like there was a time in my life where just being regularly in the Champions League was not attainable for Liverpool, right? And you win 2 domestic cups, so close to the Premier League, in the Champions League final again. It's a good feeling, and I don't really have an issue with it. I think most teams in that situation too would definitely have a parade for winning like domestic double in the cups. Like I don't know. I think anyone bothered by it is being a weirdo, and maybe just needs to like I don't know, what do the kids say? Touch grass, right? Like just figure it out, figure life out a little bit. But it was good to see. It was good to see the players too seem to really appreciate the turnout, and you got to remember it's like the most disappointing thing for them too to lose a cup final, but I think to be embraced the next day says a lot personally.
They were letting Trent hear it online about all that. He took the
People literally can't let Trent live. It's so weird too because he's such a great player. And some of it strays into I don't want to get too deep into the rabbit hole about why I think people like pick on Trent specifically. I think a lot of that does have to do with the color of his skin. I think some people are very weird to him in a very, to me, racist way. I think if there was like any other player that was like white, I don't know that Trent gets the weird. Not that all of it is like that, but I get a weird vibe sometimes the way people talk about Trent because it strays into like, brother, I don't think it's that serious actually. Seems like a normal person, and I don't know, has been to 3 Champions League finals at the age of 23. The only other player to get close to that by like I think it was like 100 days was Del Piero in '99. So anytime you're in a stat like that with Del Piero, maybe like give him some of his respect. Double figure assists again in the league. Not something been done. I don't know.
I'll tell you
the way people talk about him is uncomfortable at times and strange for me personally. But
watching him leave Vinny unmarked at the far post, and then going on and playing FIFA maybe a couple hours later and seeing my Trent team of the season leaving people unmarked at the back post. You got to say, there's a lot of realism that EA Sports has been doing this year. It's very close to real life.
Well, that's all we got for today's show. I
had to get a little dig in, but
Vinicius deserves a lot of credit too because as a player, like he's grown so much. It's kind of funny because I think both of like him and Trent, I think have similar. So many people have like harped on their inability to do like certain aspects of their game. that they've like missed the forest for the trees a lot with both of those players. I think it's funny that so much of the buildup was about them. I think Trent did a lot wrong in that play either, personally, but I haven't watched it back personally. I don't know if anyone else does this. I typically don't watch the highlights for major finals that my team just lost, but I didn't think it was like an egregious defending error.
No, it was an amazing pass. That pass.
It was not even a pass. He did not mean to pass that either. Like, which is no shame in. There's nothing like some of the greatest goals ever have been assisted by like shots. That was a shot that he messed up badly. But I think for Vinicius too, it's one of the criticisms about him has been his like end product, about his finishing. Totally turned that around this year. 20 plus goal, 20 plus assists this year, like unreal stats. And that type of like awareness and positioning was not a part of his game, and he's grown and developed that, and he looks fantastic. He's going to be a menace for years to come, for sure.
I have a soft spot for that because a lot of the way, you know, you brought up similarities between him and Trent with how they're each treated within their fan base. I can see a lot of similarities between him and like Rafael Leao the same way, right? They're coming to the respective clubs with really high expectations. They may not perform up to the fans' standards. They start getting some slack from the fans, and now they come back in another season, and next thing you know, boom, they've just exploded onto the scene with their club, you know, being a major player for their team. Like you said, 40 plus goal contributions between goals and assists for him this season is absolutely incredible.
At his age too, that's insane.
Yeah,
like it weirdly, I don't think has gotten. I don't exactly know why. I guess there's been a lot of Mbappe stuff with Madrid, and I think that's watered it down a bit. And Benzema's obviously been fantastic, but Vinicius having the season he had, I think, has gone a little under the radar. Speaking of Leao, by the way, 'cause, you know, spoiler alert, we're doing some team of the season stuff in the back half of the show, but I was just looking, you know, like through Football Reference, just like looking at stats this season, seeing like where people ended up. Rafa Leao had 106 players dribbled past in the league this season. Second place in Serie A was Nico Gonzalez with 66. That's a 106 to 66 in second place. 40. There's a 40-man difference between that. That's pretty insane. For anyone curious, third was Gianluca Caprari, Felipe Anderson, and Jeremy Boga, rounding out the top five. But that's pretty nutty, actually, when you talk about Rafa Leao. Let's talk a little more Italy, shall we, actually, because Roma won the I got to get this right, the UEFA Europa Conference League final. Jose Mourinho's
participation trophy.
I know that's how you're going to have to console yourself, friend, but the fans certainly didn't treat it that way. The players didn't treat it that way. Jose Mourinho certainly did not treat it that way. No, he did not. Interesting cup final too. It very much went the way that a lot of Mourinho games have, right? Where it's a goal and then no chance, no shot of life for Feyenoord. There was like 5-10 minutes in the second half where it seemed like they could have gotten a goal, and that might have changed things a little bit, but just never really materialized for them. Didn't really have the quality in the final third. But Roma, first Italian team to win a European trophy since Jose Mourinho did it with Inter, as aforementioned, in 2010. It's a big deal for them. It's their first European trophy. And fair enough. It's not the ultimate prize, but it's the competition that you're in. They played good teams to get here, and they played a good team in the final, and they won it. And to be able to do that in the first season of the tournament too, to always have you as the first winner, that's a pretty cool feeling. And I think it is a material mile marker for Roma now too, where they really have not had success as a club in terms of winning things. They've only won 3 league titles in their history, which, you know, when you think of like the size of Roma as a club, and you know they've had some great players and great seasons even over the last few years, for it not to really turn into lots of like big trophies, to now have this European trophy, I think it's big. I think I've been a little kinder to Roma than you are in the past, which is fair enough. But I think on the whole, I think there's something exciting about this team, and Jose, I think, is in pretty good, honestly, with what he has.
He has. I was gonna say, at Milan, they have this room, and the entire wall is of all the trophies that they've won, and it encompasses this giant UEFA Champions League trophy that they put in the center of the room, because they've won it the second most out of any club in Europe. You go to Juventus, they've got a wall full of trophies, right? You go to Inter, they've got a table. It's got quite a bit. It's got quite a bit of history on it. But they got a table. You go to Roma, they have a pedestal for this one trophy. It's getting shade from the bonsai tree that was given to them as a trophy in a friendly. And then, over in the corner collecting dust. It may be in a dust pile, actually, or the Scudetti that they won years and years ago. So, a lot of history. Most not for Roma, but at least they got a European trophy for themselves. It's nice. Their fans are talking brazy on Twitter, though. Their fans are going real crazy on Twitter.
They do maybe have the most unhinged Serie A Twitter fan base.
Yeah,
I'll say that. They
absolutely.
But you know what, though? You know what I respect about Roma fans online? They commit to the bit fully. And you know what? Some people wish-wash, but they go all the way, and I actually respect that a lot out of them.
It's so funny. They're the ones that are posting the most stuff about the illegitimate Scudetto for this year and this and that. And oh, man, we won a European trophy.
They did. Mourinho counted. He held up the 5, baby. He's got 5 of them now.
Oh my! He held up the 5.
He did. He said he was waving. God. He said he was waving. We all know exactly what he was doing. We all know exactly what he was doing. You see him driving the bus too. They let him drive the bus.
Yeah, so
someone that old should not be driving something so big. That's all I'll say. I love the man.
What's funnier though, Roma letting Mourinho drive or Ibra breaking the windshield of the bus?
Ibra is more scary because how nonchalant he was in breaking the window was it's actually terrifying. Like,
and then he has the nerve to look at the bus driver when he's getting yelled at because he broke his window, and he goes, "He's like, what do you want me to do?"
I don't know how he broke that in the way that he did. So congrats to Roma, right, for winning the first Conference League, and it is a big deal, I would say. And we've talked before about the direction this team is headed. And if you look at the landscape of Serie A, they're a team that has potential to grow. They have some good young players. Tammy Abraham had a fantastic debut season for them. I wouldn't be surprised to see Roma, in firmly in a top 4 race next year. I think they have the bare bones to do it. It's going to depend a lot on the summer, not just what happens with them, but with some of these other top Italian teams. But I'm looking forward to seeing where they go.
Zaniolo?
I think they might. Zaniolo is really frustrating for me because I think he has all the tools, and he even saw it in that goal. He took it so well. He's so composed. He has this ability at times. We've seen these mazy runs. He's got these great physical attributes. He has so much to offer, and I feel it's just never consistent enough. I don't know if it's a mentality thing or what. If they get a good offer for him, I don't know who would be doing this, by the way, though. But and I think maybe the ship has sailed a little bit on him being moved for big boy money. But I think he's a good player. I don't know that he's the keystone to this Roma team, but he is a good player, and he showed that quality in the final. It's a huge goal. First Italian player to score, and this will make you happy, Tom. First Italian player to score in a European final since 2007, Pippo Inzaghi against Liverpool. So there you go, dude. There's your little nugget. There's your little.
What happened in 2007?
Maybe one of the most corrupt finals I've ever seen. I have reason to believe Calciopoli went beyond just Italy and leaked into European. And
Dudek didn't come 5 feet off his line in 2005.
Hey, whoa! That rule was not established yet, my friend. All right, let's relax. All right, hey, maybe Shevchenko finishes his lunch. It's not a discussion. I don't know. Let's get into some team of the season stuff. It's always fun to look back and I gotta say this is a hard exercise because I also tried to not look at other established team of the seasons. I wanted to kind of just be who did I think was the best? So I wrote down a starting 11 just who I thought was great, and then I went back and actually looked at some stats and then looked back at some of the show notes that we've had and play because I think oftentimes too. People get blinded with team of the season on the last month and a half, and really all awards races, I think sometimes. And listen, if someone has a great last month and it helps win them a title, like Kevin De Bruyne, right? I think it makes total sense to like reward that and be like, yes, that's player of the season. Even though he have a great first half of the year, what he did to win his team the title and how good he was deserves merit. But there are some players that I think have really strong first half of the season and still have a pretty good second half, but get overtaken narrative wise by some of these other bigger name players or just guys that stat pad in the last month or whatever. So we're gonna start with Serie A. I'd make Magnon in net. Hard to see it any other way. I don't know that there's really many other goalkeepers that I would have had in front of him. You could maybe have some discussions about some other guys, but I think it's him all the way, especially when you consider Milan won the title on defense, and he was the heart of that. Great shot stopper, great goalkeeper, debut season. Hard to argue. I know you're not going to put up a fight with that one, so I don't even have to ask you.
No.
Right back was a little more challenging, right? Because fullbacks in general, I think, are a little harder to evaluate too, because you obviously have your more attacking fullbacks, but how do you reward more defensive fullbacks, right? Because even though I would say in general the fullback position is heading towards being able to do everything, and especially being able to provide assists, provide good passing quality, there's still something to be said about good defensive. I went with Di Lorenzo from Napoli still. I think he has a little bit of the best of both. He gets forward well enough, has some good goal contribution numbers, but is still solid defensively. I think this just speaks more to the fact that there's no real outstanding right back in Serie A, I wouldn't say. Di Lorenzo is not bad, but I think there's a little bit of a lacking quality at that position throughout the whole league.
Yeah, I don't think that Dumfries did enough with Inter to warrant him getting that team of the season spot. Juventus has been playing Danilo there, right? Because Cuadrado has been playing a more advanced role for them.
They've been swapping.
Yeah.
Dumfries was the only one that I was close with, and I love Dumfries. And he actually has some really interesting underlying stats too. He has the best expected goal plus minus. So when he's on the field, Inter have been great, and he's a huge difference maker for that team. And I think what he gives, I just think defensively though, not there for me.
Yeah.
Whereas Di Lorenzo, I think maybe isn't as good offensively. Maybe doesn't crash the back post as well as Dumfries, but has a better defensive outlay. But I think part of that could be system too. I don't know if that's harsh on him. I went with Di Lorenzo. Just also too, Napoli had a great defense, and he was a part of that.
I would under a technicality, you could put Kalulu in there, but he
made his mark at center back this season.
Yeah, that's what I was just about to say. I mean, he did. I think that one time he did score, he was playing at right back, so he has shown to get forward and score goals or get assists, and he obviously has shown his defensive. But like you said, I agree that he made his mark more as a center back, especially at the end of the season filling in, than as a right back. So you have to give that nod to Di Lorenzo.
Center back, I had Tomori. So after I made my list, I went and looked at it. Not a lot of people had Tomori, which I found a little surprising.
Very weird.
He was great this year, especially when you consider that Kier goes down and he has to kind of take the leadership role, and also ends up having Kalulu next to him, a converted center back, and it leads to the best defensive partnership in Serie A over the last really all of 2022 actually. So for me, and I know you're not going to argue with that, Tomori being in there, I had to put this guy in because he did win the defensive MVP of Serie A. And I mean, I don't think you can make a team of the season without him. I've talked about him before on the show. I'm not fully convinced by Bremer. That's, but when you look at the defensive stats, he's top 3 in every category, tackling everything, intercepting everything, blocking everything, clearances, all of it. Great, fine enough. I'm not fully convinced by him. I don't mean to diminish him in this. He won the award because he had all these top stats. Fair enough. Cool. I would just like to be on the record as not being a total believer in this guy. That's it. But deserve to be in the team of the season. You cannot tell the story of the year. It would not be fair to have a team of the season and not have what was judged to be the best defensive center back in the league in your team of the season for Serie A. But I don't know. I don't know that he's quite at the top level like some maybe believe.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that Bremer is most deserving of this. I'm on the Serie A website right now. The top 15 for recoveries, Bremer is first with 466 recoveries. Palomino is second with 70 less. He has 396 to Bremer's 466
But like
recoveries.
the problem with defensive stats for me has always been is that part of that is system based. Part of that too is just like if you're in a worse team, you're obviously going to have way more. Like, is Bremer a better center back than Van Dijk because he has more tackles or more clearances or more? No, like and it's unfair to compare him to what it might be the best center back in the world, right? But like, people
You
use
got to do more of
tackles
an eye
and all this.
test.
Right,
That-
people have to
yeah.
people use tackles and all this stuff all the time to like make their point, and it's like that's not the point. And what I also hate is the replies where it's like Maldini's quote, where it's like, "If I have to make a tackle, I made a mistake." That's also stupid. And Maldini, I think, has even walked that comment back a little bit because that's also
Maldini, you can make a 10-minute
right.
compilation of how many tackles he's
But like
made.
positioning is very important, and
Yeah.
I think, and also you need to be good at passing now too. And Bremer is not great at passing. He's not that great in the area. Listen. I don't want to turn this into a we're hating on Bremer. I think he won defensive MVP. Good for him. He was adjudged to be the best center back. You can't have a team this season without a minute, in my opinion, for that reason.
Who's
It's
your
hard
left back?
Teo Hernandez. Hard to see it any other way. I think he's been great. He's been one of the keystones of this Milan team. This was not based solely off his Maisie run that helped win them the title in the last games of the season. I just think he's been fantastic. And it's hard for me to pick any other left back above him. Perisic was close. Perisic is also, I think, gets a little benefit from the system because he gets like a lot more space to dribble with and is able to get into some more advanced positions. He gets to work with Bastoni down that left side, and he gets forward, and I think there's got a lot of good like interplay there that Teo Hernandez doesn't quite get that benefit. He doesn't quite get all that. He has a good link up obviously with Leao, but I think he has more defensive work to do at times. I just think Teo is great, and I think maybe it's unfair, but I think he's deserving of this award.
All I was gonna say was I was gonna ask, maybe Perisic, because that's what I'm seeing online. A lot of people are putting Perisic over Teo, but other people are
I think you
putting
could have
Teo.
either, and I would if someone had Perisic, I would not call that
One
egregious.
won the title and one didn't. You know what I'm saying? So if it comes down to that, then
So it should be just full Milan 11.
no.
I'm kidding.
But
I'm kidding.
But somebody who's so integral to the team and plays a big part in their success, I think that it goes without saying that he kind of does need to be listed as the best left back in the league for sure.
Yeah, but Perisic was also like if Inter had won the title, it would have been in very large part to Ivan Perisic in the last few games of that season. Like he turned it up to a different level. And shout out to him. He'll be in Tottenham next year, it seems. So we get to watch a little bit more of him again in one of our main leagues. Midfield, Sergej Milinkovic-Savic, great season. Just imperious midfielder. God damn, what a player! What a player! The midfield was a little hard for me to figure out, right? So Milinkovic-Savic, I think, picks himself. I think there's three Inter midfielders you could go with. I went with just my favorite personally, and who I think genuinely had just a fantastic year. Faded a little bit in the second half of the season, but I can't discount what a hot start he had. Nico Barella. I just think he's one of the top midfielders in Serie A, and I think he was great this year. And I know Çalhanoğlu and even Brozovic at times, but I think Barella was so consistent. He's so damn good. He's such a good ball carrier, so good at passing. I tell you, I watch a player like him. He makes the right pass just so often, and he is like one of those just like he makes like high difficulty passes look routine, and I think he's just uber talented. Nico Barella for me.
I agree with you on that one too. I have no disagreements until this next one.
The third one is where it gets interesting, and this is where I think if I can make my case. First half of the season, this guy was unplayable. Literally one of the best players in the league.
I do agree with you.
And we stopped talking about him, and that's because he and the team faded a little bit. But for me, still deserving of it. You look at his goal contribution numbers; he's in the top marks for goals and assists this season. Had a career year. I think was fantastic. Is in fact one of the only reasons that Atalanta even finishes in the top half is because of Mary Pasalic. And I feel like people have kind of, come on, what are we doing here? This guy was amazing this year, and I feel like we forgot about that. Again, I understand the context that he faded a little bit. Atalanta did not have a great season, but I think he did all that in spite of that, right? Like in spite of not having the big players around him, despite not having the easy circumstances, he was great, and I mean great. And I think he deserved to be in the team this season. For me, it's hard to tell the story of this season without including Pasalic. I ran through all the other midfielders. You could listen, if you have some other player in there, I think we can have that conversation. But for me, Pasalic was one of the best midfielders. And maybe that's cheating too, because he was a little more advanced this year. But for me, he was one of the midfielders of the season, and that's why he's in my team of the season.
Yeah, to me, Pasalic is more of like a forward in my eye. For Atalanta, he plays more of like the left forward or right forward position. So if I were to put him in my team of the season, I'd have to put him in at like the right forward kind of position. But there's someone who you have in your list who I agree with deserves that more. And when it comes into the midfield, I think that Sandro Tonali deserves a spot in that team of the season. Being one of the generals to step up too in this year at Milan as a young player into the role that he's been given, and how it's evolved over the course of the season, where at the beginning of the season he was more of your just stay back, get the ball, win the ball, ping a pass, working the link up play, but then he has that vision to play a longer ball either over the top for Leao or find somebody downfield. And then closer towards the end of the season, it kind of evolved, and Pioli gave him a lot more freedom to get forward. You're seeing him make these, late runs into the box for Leao to find on a cross or for somebody to lay off to him. And, he ends up, getting these chances that, he scored some very crucial goals that helped Milan, win some of those games they needed to win the league. So I think that he definitely deserves a spot in my team of the season for that.
And you know what? Fair enough. But I just think, for me, Paslic was great, and I think deserves credit for how good he was this year. 13 goals, 6 assists. I think he was just one of the top midfielders for me this season. Let's move to the front three. This one, honestly, I think kind of picks itself. I don't know how different you could really get with this front three. I've seen some other people included in some other lists, but there's only a few that I would say you could change. Domenico Berardi, I just had a career year, unbelievable season. I don't know how. I just think he was great this season. Immobile, I know that it's a little bit tired, but he did win the Golden Boot. I don't know. It's just like I think the only other player that I struggled with him was Vlahovic. I know Vlahovic, it didn't end great, but he did propel Fiorentina to that spot and was the hottest goal scorer. And I think we also forget too that okay, but when he went to Juventus too, part of the turnaround with Juventus was because of him. Juventus was in a much more difficult position, and he, I know it goes beyond the league too, but had a great Champions League, although it obviously didn't end well for the team, but performed to high standards there. But he really propelled Juventus out of a bad position and had put Fiorentina in the spot where they end up finishing in European places. So Vlahovic, I think, part of me wanted to put him over them, but I just don't know that people would take that well. So Immobile in the striker position and Rafael Leao on the left wing. I listen. I saw one list had Insigne there, and I almost punched my screen because that's insane to me.
I can't believe that somebody.
I'm not sure Insigne was the best left wing on his own team. Actually,
I can't believe that anybody would dare try to put somebody who didn't score a single goal from open play.
He scored 2, I think, from open play this year.
He's got 5 goals on the season, 6 goals. Nah, you can't take a shell of what we used to know Lorenzo Insigne and put him in there just based off of stature. But I think that your top 3 are the ones that go without say. Leao was the league MVP; he gets in regardless. Immobile has the Golden Boot. Enough said, right?
Won the attacker MVP as well,
and he's still doing this for as long as he has on a team that is wildly inconsistent, and yet he still has the consistency to be a top goal scorer, if not the top goal scorer in the league every season. So, hats off to him. And then, Berardi had an absolutely incredible season this year. League leader in assists. I think he was top, like 7 in goals. So, I mean, he was absolutely incredible for Sassuolo, and that was one of the reasons why every time Milan decided to play Sassuolo, I got nervous, because this man just always seems to put it in the back of the net. So, and if he's not scoring, he's finding somebody that will score. So, I don't have much different than what you would put in there. Our only discrepancy is that Pasalic.
So there's some names that I just wrote down that I think you could, like, if I saw these names on someone else's list, I'd be like, okay. So Osimhen, it's hard because he missed some time and ultimately didn't have the numbers, but he won, I think, under 23, like MVP, best player. Serie A does it in a weird kind of way. So I'm just saying, like, the young player. I think they call it U23 award or something.
Tammy is more deserving of that than.
So I had Tammy Abraham as another player. I think you could have him there. And, I wouldn't hate that. Çalhanoğlu, I think you could make in your midfield. He was one of the top assisters in the league. Had a pretty good campaign for Inter, one of his best goal assist contributions of his career. Hard to argue. If you had Koulibaly as your center back, it feels a little more lifetime achievement to me. But he, it was one of the foundations of the best defensive team for a very long time in Serie A this season. So fair enough. Perisic was another name. I think there's some other guys you can include. I think with the team of the season, it's always hard. But you know what? It is what it is. Just don't have Lorenzo Insigne in your team of the season, and we're probably square. I think as long as you can make a reasonable argument for that player, fair enough. Fair enough. That's the way it works. Let's move to the Premier League. This one was challenging in some ways, easy in some. Some of these just write themselves in. I don't know how you debate it. Alisson, you could have Ederson, you could have Jose Sa at goalkeeper. I picked Alisson because I just think 1v1, he's the best goalkeeper I think I've ever seen. Just shuts people down. I know Jose Sa had unreal expected goal difference. One of the best performing seasons ever. The problem is those seasons are usually followed up by severe regression. So I'm not sure Jose Sa is that good, and he just had an outstanding, wonder season, and it's going to come crash. I don't want to poo-poo on it, but if people pick Jose Sa and that's the reason, fair enough. And you could honestly pick Ederson or Alisson, and I don't know. They both finished tied for the Gold Glove. Hard to separate them personally. I just think Alisson, fantastic. I think it was actually probably one of Liverpool's best players this season. So that's why he's in there for me. Trent at right back. I'm sorry. I don't think you can pick anyone else. I think the two fullbacks in this team, I don't know how you make an argument. I think Reece James, if he stays healthy, maybe there's a discussion. Outside of that, I don't know what discussion there's to be had. The center backs, I think, is the only part of the team I think that gets a little contentious. I had Antonio Rudiger. I think he was great this year. Great passer. Scored some key goals. I think was part of a Chelsea defense that was very good. He's moving on to Real Madrid now. I just think you could honestly pick Thiago Silva and I wouldn't hate it. I just felt like Rudiger did some things this year, took some leaps forward that I think is deserving of some recognition. I thought he was very good. And he's going to be partnered by Virgil van Dijk. Center backs are challenging. I think you could have like Ruben Dias in there. I wouldn't hate that. Like I said, if you had Thiago Silva, I wouldn't hate that. We can have that conversation at least there. I think there's reasonable. If Christian Romero had played the full season, might work his way into that discussion as well. But it's tough when he faced the injuries he did, and I feel like wasn't consistent really as like a starter until like January, February onwards. So that's my beef with Romero. Is simply I don't know that he played enough to necessarily be team of the season. But if he plays like that again next year, he's in the conversation at least.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it goes without saying that Virgil gets in there. I think that Rudiger had a very good season. I mean, there's a reason he's going to Real Madrid now, right? I think he's kind of like solidified, the fact that he is a top center back. Like you said, you could say Ruben Dias, you could say Laporte, but you could say Thiago Silva. That one spot is down to preference, but I think that it goes without saying that Virgil, takes his rightful claim to at least one of those two spots.
Fair enough. João Cancelo at left back. You could put him at right back, and that might be fair too, because he played like I think
Played
22
both.
games at left, 14 games at right. Just a stupid player in what he can do. I mean, it's just unreal. If in real life having him and Trent at full like opposite fullback positions would be pretty disgusting. Don't get any ideas, Manchester City, or get some ideas, Liverpool. That might be cool. Just kidding. Andy Robertson, light of my life. But Cancelo is just spectacular. It's unreal, and Juventus should be slapping themselves. I can't believe they let this man go. He's just so goddamn good, and he's. I saw this stat too. He started he had the most minutes of any Pep player. The only two players in like Pep's entire career that he's played in a similar amount of time and like did not rotate, Messi and Danny Alves. So there you go. You know what? Like, good company to find yourself in. One of the best fullbacks of all time. Certainly one of the archetypes for like the modern fullback, right? And the best player of all time. Underneath one of the best managers, if not the best manager of all time. So shout out to Jack Cancelo for being amazing. Midfield could get a little weird. You know, you could have different guys here. I had Kevin De Bruyne. He ends up winning Player of the Season in some of the awards, pretty much all like the big mainstream ones. Kevin De Bruyne wins, and I wouldn't say undeservingly. Career year in goals, and again, when you talk about what he did in the run into the title to win City, the Premier League, totally deserved. Just a fantastic player, one of the best midfielders I've ever seen play. Declan Rice had a great year for West Ham. I know Jaron Bowen stole a lot of the headlines, but I think Declan Rice was amazing this year as well. Deserves a lot of credit. I wouldn't take beef or argument with people maybe subbing him out somewhere, but and then Bernardo Silva. People forget he was in Player of the Year discussions in like December, which I thought was stupid. But he was great again this year, and is just like an absolute running monster. Just covers so much ground. We know what a great like dribbler he is. Big game player too, for whatever reason. Like anytime, like I speak from this angle as a Liverpool fan, but always seems to have a really strong performance in these big potential like title decider games. Yeah, so De Bruyne, Rice, and Bernardo Silva. Not a bad midfield, but I think there are some names you could throw in there, and I wouldn't hate. Fabinho, Rodri, Thiago, I think can all deserve some space, some discussion at least, right? Mason Mount as a midfielder, right? You could have Kovacic in there, like it's hard. Like if there's one thing I've learned through this discussion, you could even talk to me about like trying to force Saka into that position, right? Or Odegaard. Like I think you could have that conversation. Conor Gallagher, you could speak to me about Conor Gallagher. I will listen to you, but I just think it's hard. Like it's a challenge making these team of the seasons.
Yeah, I think the only one that's a sure lock is always like Kevin De Bruyne. I mean, Bernardo Silva had an absolutely incredible season this year. What he did for City was great. Um, uh, yeah, I think that people would argue with you about the Declan Rice one. I think a lot of people may lean more towards like Mason Mount, who was who was like, well, I think he was top 5 on the assist tallies this season or something like that. And then he also bagged himself 11 goals. I think he had 21 goal contributions in all competitions, or sorry, in the league. So that's a shout. I mean, I was just looking at some of the stats. I mean, like Paul Pogba had more assists than Kevin De Bruyne, but also for City, the way that they play.
Paul Pogba got like 4 in the very early stage of the season and like barely played this year. Paul Pogba's not making. We'll talk to him.
No way. No.
I'll tell you what, Dom. We'll tell you what.
Serie
A team of the season next year. Maybe we'll talk about Paul Pogba then.
No, Decky was really good this year. So
yeah. So Mason Mount, by the way, finished in 7th for goals and assists combined, 21 in the league. Mo Salah with 36, Heung-min Son with 30, Harry Kane with 26, Kevin De Bruyne with 23, Jared Bowen with 22, Ronaldo with 21, Mason Mount with 21, James Maddison with 20.
I think your forwards for this team, I don't think are what's the word I'm looking for? You can't argue these teams. You can't argue these picks.
These are like it's hard. Like Jared Bone is the only one that I think you could have a discussion about breaking through to these front three. So I had Salah. I mean, come on. Most goals and assists combined. No one has talked about the fact too that he did that, and Harry Kane. Like everyone not shut up about the fact that Harry Kane did it last year, and Mo Salah does it, and it's like crickets. Weird. Harry Kane at striker. He had a especially great second half of the season. I've raved about his passing. Such a great striker. Such a great player. Youngman Son on the left. Again, such a great player. Did it without penalties too, which deserves a lot of credit. And a great second half of the season. You could tell Antonio Conte just loves working with him. I think also benefits a lot from having Kulusevski provide him service rather than Lucas Moura. But yeah, Salah, Kane, Son. I think Jared Bowen, we could have a chat about Jared Bowen. We could have that discussion. I don't think he breaks into that. It's tough because he had a great year, but you can't tell me that he's better than any of those three, and that he had a better year because he didn't. And that sucks, but it is what it is.
I'm okay with it. I'm not going to complain. I mean, Son is tied for the Golden Boot with Salah. Salah also has the most assists. It goes without saying. And then when you think about pure strikers in the league, there really only is one that comes to mind that stands above everyone else, and that's Harry Kane. I don't think that there's another number 9 on any team in the Prem that, like, aside from maybe Cristiano Ronaldo, but, like, you know, looking how Juventus went. Like, I mean, his season, he scored a lot, right? He had, like 20-something goal contributions for United, but when you take a look at what he accomplished and then how that translated to United's success, I think that, Harry Kane, what he did for his team and being able to secure Champions League for Tottenham this season, I think that, definitely puts him, above everybody else as that best number 9 in the league. I don't think that there's anybody else that comes close to touching him when it comes to that position.
Ivan Toney. Just kidding. Ivan Toney's a tier below, but I love Ivan Toney. Looking forward to seeing him next year and what he does. I think, again, Jared Bowen, we could have that conversation. James Maddison had a better season I think people have given him credit for. So you could talk to him about the midfield. You could have Diogo Jota, Sadio Mane. You could have that talk. I know Saka, again, have that conversation if you'd like. But it's hard. It's hard. It's a hard thing to do, these team of the season stuff. We're just going to wrap up with some little news, right? Some things that have come out in the last week. Monza, by the way, Dom, going up to Serie A, owned by your boy, Berlusconi.
My boy.
He's back in the Serie A, baby. Hey, he oversaw some of the best Milan years and some of the worst.
And then decided
it all even out.
Decided to pull all the money out because he had to spend it all gambling. He had to pull all that money out and say, you know what? I want an all-Italian young team, and that's going to do wonders. But didn't put any money into the youth program.
He's back.
He's back.
Like Voldemort, baby. He's back.
Next thing you know, Monza's going to sign Mario Balotelli. So
you never know. Don't discount it. You saw his goal. You know how good he still is. Ralph Rangnick, Dom, this is hilarious. I mean, just listen, as a Liverpool fan, down in the dumps after the Champions League final, what is truly the best is hearing all about how Ralph Rangnick was the grandfather and the sole reason that Julian Nagelsmann, that Jurgen Klopp are successful managers, that he personally hand-taught Hansi Flick and Jurgen Klopp how to press. Will not be returning with the club, is not going to take that consultancy job. They hired this bum to do 6 months of terrible work. He was worse than Ole, and the whole silver lining the entire time, he's a great consultant. He's going to figure out. Gone. Done. See ya. He's taking over the Austrian national team, which, fair enough. Good gig. Devote all your time and energy to that. I just think it's hilarious because they would not shut up about how he was going to revolutionize Manchester United. It literally did not even last a year. Not even. Come on. I mean, just come on. It's hilarious to me.
I mean, I know you won't, but I kind of feel bad for United because I know exactly what they're going through, and I know you don't care.
No,
I think I personally, actually, I don't want to say when I say I feel bad. it's just a figure of speech because I love seeing it too. I absolutely hate Manchester United, but I know exactly what they're going through, and they're going through that one stage now. Nothing works, so the coaching carousel happens, the player carousel happens. Yeah, just send that here.
God
That feels
damn.
all too
Feels
all too close,
so
man.
good. It feels so good. You know what sucks though is they've been linked a lot to Frankie De Jong, and that's one of my favorite players. So if he ends up at United, I'm gonna be tight. So let's not have that happen, shall we? But Ralph Rangnick gone. We'll see what direction United head in. Last piece of news, Dom. Apparently, Lukaku's lawyer is going to be in Milan, negotiating away from him to head back to Inter. I mean, surely not, right? I mean, surely not, because they're trying to sign Paulo Dybala. They're also trying to sign Mkhitaryan. There's
everybody.
there's no way they're getting. They're just all vibes. They're going with the 307. just rolling out. Alessandro Bastoni is going to tear both hamstrings 6 times if he has to cover that much space as a defender.
Well, no, apparently he's going to get scooped up by Tottenham.
Listen,
the rumor mill has been going that
I love Alessandro Bastoni. That's one of the other snubs you could have in my Serie A team of the season. If I'm Inter, I'm not accepting anything less than $100 million for him. He is such a good under no circumstances am I letting him leave unless it's like coming to blood. Like that's it. There's no shot on letting him leave my club. He's so damn good. Skriniar, you can find another Skriniar. Bastoni,
he's got to stay, right?
He cannot. He's so good for that system. No. If Spurs get him though, now we're having a chat. And Atalanta, by the way, developing these players. Bastoni, Romero, you're welcome. You're welcome. Kulusevski, you're welcome. So Lukaku back to Inter. I mean, not even what, 9 months in Chelsea? Not even 10 months?
I don't know if it's going to work out the same for him because it's a new system.
I don't know anything. I couldn't listen. You could tell me you could tell me 10 different things about Lukaku, and I might believe all of them. Like in terms of where we're this time next year. What discussion we're having about Lukaku, you could tell me there's an amazing bounce back season at Chelsea. I'd be like, good. You could tell me he goes back to Inter, lights it up. Good. You could tell me he just doesn't play at all this year. I'd be like, maybe.
He could, yes.
It's bizarre with him. I don't know what direction he ends up in, but I just thought that was an interesting piece of news if he does, in fact, head back to Serie A. I don't know where he would end up elsewhere, honestly, because he's on big money.
Some of the rumors I saw, somebody, I don't know how much, like if this had any type of weight to it at all, but somebody was saying that he wouldn't go to Inter, but he would actually go to Milan. I don't think that personally Lukaku would do that, and I don't think that Milan would want to pay for him. There was also another rumor saying that Real Madrid are interested in Rafael Leao. But again, like what you said about Bastoni with Inter, Milan is the same way with Leao. You cannot let him go for anything.
No way is Madrid getting Leao. No way. They've got those wings figured out. They're not.
There's no way. But I just thought it was funny because the rumor mill is now going, and instead of Milan being interested in buying players, it's now people being interested in buying the Milan players. So it's kind of the shoes on the other foot. But
they're losing some players to free agency, right? Romagnoli will be gone. Kessie, we know he's going to Barcelona. So they are going to have to, they're obviously going to have to buy players. It's going to be interesting seeing where Milan end up in terms of transfers.
Renato
and
Sanchez.
Who they get. Renato Sanchez, wish casting. I appreciate it. I mean, just disclaimer to everyone, it's silly season, right? You can't believe everything you read on Twitter, okay? Like, people are going to say that the X player is going to Y club tomorrow, and it's not going to happen. The only player that I think we know for sure, it seems like is definitely going somewhere. It does seem like now Dybala is heading to Inter. I know Roma had this, weird push, but Dybala is likely to be an Inter player.
Origi to Milan.
Origi to Milan, which is interesting. Legend, right? Just truly some of the most legendary goals that I've ever seen in my life. Jurgen Klopp has said, best finisher at the club. No bullshit either. Like I said that about Divock Origi, and I kind of believe it. Instinctual player, can be frustrating, but I think if he gets the good game time, could come very good. I think people forget how good he was he had that really bad ankle injury very early on in Klopp's tenure here, but just I'll miss that guy. Just truly something. When you see that he's getting subbed on in a game that had some meaning, you knew that some magic was coming. And they can't take away the Barcelona goal. They can't take away that Everton goal. They can't take away the goal in the Champions League final. God bless him. Wherever he goes, I'm glad he went to Milan. Great club, great history, great fans. Fair enough. They will appreciate the magic that is Divock Origi. I appreciated the magic of recording this episode with you. Do you have anything to say before we get up out of here?
I just want to shed light on how much of an amazing, incredible, like you can't even describe it in words, the effort and dedication that Zlatan Ibrahimovic had for this season for Milan. He played 6 months without a knee, basically. His ACL was completely gone. He drained his knee every single day so that he could, like, be ready to play. Like, he wasn't even training with the team. He maybe trained 6 times over the course of 6 months with the team, just so he could be ready to play. And that's the reason he had less and less and less playing time, because he legit just could not play anymore. And still, on the last day, was still out there trying to get a goal. He should have scored a goal. The goal got called back. But to be able to, come out and, like, say that, like, for 6 months, I drained my knee every single day so I could just at least have the chance of, contributing to them winning the league. It just makes it all that much more sweet that, he came back to Milan. He repeated, won it again with that team, and really just cements himself as a legend within the club.
Yeah. Don't know what's next for his stage of the career, right? He's going to have surgery. And listen, I've made the mistake of saying at his age with that surgery, I don't know about his future. It does feel like this one, though. It's hard. He might come back for like a game just to get like a great ovation, and he totally deserves that. But seems like, yeah, you're turning to a different phase of your career. We'll maybe do an introspective on Ibra. One of these, we're gonna have some space to fill over the summer. But yeah, one of the most unique and best players I've seen, honestly, goes out like a champion. Not surprised at all that he like put himself through that pain, because that's just listen, everything. I know he gets a little Chuck Norris like with some of this stuff. Part of that is his brand, but you cannot question his like commitment to winning, and he has won a lot in his career. So shout out to Ibra. We'll be back next week. We'll be talking about, we got some World Cup qualifiers. We'll be talking about some transfers. We'll be talking about some other things. We'll have some ideas cooking up for the summer. So don't worry. Even though there's not going to be regular games like we're used to, there's still going to be plenty to chat about, plenty of news and all of that, some speculation talk. We'll be doing some deep dives and all of that. Until then, though, I hope you enjoy maybe a more relaxing week. I don't know about you, but it felt kind of nice to not have to watch like 8 hours of games and be like, you know what? I can read a book. This is nice. Got my Saturdays and Sundays back. It's pretty cool. But as long as you tune in, as long as you watch next week, we're cool. We're vibing, and we'll talk to you then. See ya.